If I had $1 for every time somebody asked me how many times per week should I train my breath hold, I'd be rich now. If you're new to this channel, my name is Gert Leroy. I'm a freediving instructor and coach, a former national record holder, and on this channel I have helped thousands hold their breath longer. So why people keep on asking me this question, how many times should I do this, how many times should I do that, can I combine it with this, and if I go to the gym this week, can I do that the other week, and so on and so on. Why do people want to know an answer to this question? And this is all about how the human mind works. And after 10 years in this freediving community and being a coach for many years, I have come to a point to understand people better. So people want certainty. For some reason, people want to get a number like 4 times a week or 5 times a week or 6 times a week, as if this number would be the solution to all their problems, right? So of course that is not the case, but people want a number for certainty. So there is a certain craving. Human beings, they crave certainty. It's like they can't live in uncertainty. Sometimes as a coach, I just give an answer to this question like this many times, because I know if I don't, then they will keep on asking this question. And maybe I've made videos in the past here on this YouTube channel where I actually do give you an answer to that question. And if that would be the case, be sure that the only reason I gave you an answer was for you to stop asking that question, because of course there is no answer. It's not about how many times, it is about the quality of your work. That is in freediving the case, that is in everything the case. In freediving and breath holding, it comes down to learning how you react when you hold your breath. And if you can learn it in one session, well, then you should do only one session, right? And some people need a longer time. So how many times per day? How many times per week? How many times should we do apnea walking? All of this is besides the question. So if you keep on asking yourself that question, it's actually because you're trying to get away from the real problem, and the real problem is inside of you. There are certain issues that you need to fix, and that is normal because in freediving it's an introspective activity, so we have to look inside to fix what is broken in here, and then we can hold our breath longer. So if you keep on asking that question how many times, it is because you don't want to look inside. Maybe unconsciously you know that the problem is inside of you and you have to look there, but you don't have the courage. You lack the courage, you don't want to do it. You know it's going to be difficult, so you're running away from it. And you trick yourself into believing that the answer to how many times, that would actually help you further along in your journey as a freediver and as a breath holder. When you ask me how many times, what you are really telling me is that you don't understand the process of breath holding, which is okay if you're a beginner. I'm not expecting you to understand the process of breath holding. That's why you are a beginner and I'm a coach, so that's fine. But at some point you should understand that it's time to stop asking that question. You gotta start trusting in yourself, trusting in your ability to create that awareness, trusting in your ability to understand what is going on inside of you. As a beginner, you don't have that awareness and you think that the answer to how many times that this will fix your issues. And of course, that's not going to be the case. By the way, guys, if you want to learn how to train your breath hold the right way and at 30 to 90 seconds in less than a month, then join my underwater squat. The link is in the description, skool.com/underwater squat. Okay, so what does actually matter when you hold your breath? So obviously relaxation is the most important skill you have to learn. So relaxation is not something that happens to you by coincidence. It is a skill that you can learn through different techniques, breathing techniques, but most of all mental techniques like visualization and the body scan. You can search my other videos where I talk about this in depth. So you need to master the skill of relaxation. And the art of breath holding, we can compare this to peeling an onion. You can keep on peeling an onion more and more and more, and when you think you're done, there's still a layer that you can peel off, and that is the layers of relaxation or the layers of stress that you can peel off. So when you think, okay, now I have reached a better level of relaxation, there's always the next level you can go to. You can always relax deeper. You can always relax more. So your journey of freediving is actually a journey of relaxation. You have to master the skill to relax when you want, not when your body or your mind decides to, but when you want, which is right before you hold your breath, right? Or right before you want to start a freediving session. You want to relax, calm down, get your heart rate down. We call this bradycardia, the lowering of the heart rate. So you can do this on command through mastering the skill of relaxation. Another thing along the way when you become a better freediver is that you will understand that recovery is super important. So the more you hold your breath, the more you stress your central nervous system. And you can't keep on doing that day after day after day. Your body will say, stop, that's it. I had enough of this. and then probably gonna stop freediving for a couple of weeks. So you need to understand when you need to rest. You can't freedive every day. You cannot hold your breath every day. So yes, in that sense, the question, how many times can we train breath holding per week, would make sense. Although for beginners, it's not really important. This is more important for like a more advanced level. As a beginner, you have to listen to your body. And when you have held your breath long, meaning you stressed your central nervous system, it's better to take it easy on the next couple of sessions. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do nothing and take a full rest day. Yes, you can hold your breath the next day, just don't go for a maximum. It's the same as going to the gym. When you lift a maximum weight in the gym on the next day, you're not going to lift that same heavy weight or even a heavier weight. You're not going to do that because your central nervous system is overworked. So you need to just do a light session. So it's not about how many times, it's about intensity and regulating volume versus intensity. When you do high intensity, you're going to do low volume, meaning a maximum breath hold, you're only going to do once, maybe 1 or 2 warm-ups, a maximum breath hold, and that's it. When you do low intensity, you can do more breath holds because you're never going to do a maximum. And of course, consistency is more important than a couple of intense attempts. So let's say you train 5 times a week and you do it at 70-80% of your maximum or even less. That would be better than once or twice to a maximum. So it is better, especially as a beginner, to have multiple sessions, but don't really go to a maximum so you overwork your central nervous system. So a little bit less intensity, more volume. And as you become a more advanced freediver, you can do more maximums or sub-maximals, like 90% maximums, because your body and your mind is trained for this already. You are ready for this kind of breath holding. As a beginner, however, you're not ready for this. So take it easy, do multiple breath holds in one session, and yes, you can do 4 to 5 sessions per week. But most important of all, besides asking yourself how many times, is the fact that you have to learn to become comfortable with an uncomfortable situation, which is breath holding. And that's why breath holding is a metaphor for life, because in life there are uncomfortable situations. And breath holding teaches you to become comfortable with the uncomfortable. So if that is your focus, then you're doing something right. Many people, they train their breath hold the wrong way. They don't listen to their body, they don't listen to how they are reacting to breath holding, and they just keep on focusing on finishing their table or finishing their session. And you don't really learn much when you do that. You learn more when you listen to how you feel, how you react, and you create that awareness. For instance, to be very specific, as a beginner, one of the first things you have to learn is to identify your first contraction. So a contraction is a spasm of your respiratory muscles. That can be the diaphragm or muscles around the neck or the chest. So they start to contract when you progress into your breath hold. So when your breath hold becomes more difficult, carbon dioxide levels increase, that's when you start feeling contraction. So the first contraction for a beginner is difficult to spot, to identify when exactly is it happening. So therefore you need to create that awareness. So instead of thinking about how long can I hold my breath, how many times should I do this per session, your focus should be on feeling what's going on, and after a couple of sessions identifying exactly when comes that first spasm of your respiratory muscles, which we in freediving describe as a contraction. Also for beginners, it's extremely important that you do the typical, what we call no contraction tables or first contraction tables, because you're going to stop your breath hold at your first contraction. So in the underwater squad, my community on Skool, where we all train our breath hold together, we do a lot of no contraction tables or first contraction tables, however you want to call it. And therefore it is necessary that you know how to identify that first contraction. So when the first definite urge to breathe manifests itself through that contraction, you stop the breath hold. This way, we never hold our breath until we feel quite uncomfortable or until the levels of uncomfortable feeling rise to a level that you start feeling really uncomfortable. And there's different ways to describe this, of course. So this first contraction is the first time you feel a little bit uncomfortable in a breath hold, and that's when we stop. Because we want to learn how to go through that first phase of the breath hold, the first phase, which is the relaxation phase, that doesn't have contractions. We want to learn how to relax as much as possible in that first phase so we can actually delay that first contraction. So apart from learning how to deal with contractions and thus holding your breath longer while you're having contractions, we also want to extend the first part of the breath hold that doesn't have contractions yet. and therefore you want to do first contraction tables. So how many times a week, right? So I know you want an answer to this question. So yes, my training frequency guide, which is inside the underwater squat, says the following. So 2 sessions per week, that's the minimum. It's enough for steady progress. It's better to train 3 to 4 times a week. That is like the sweet spot. If you are consistent 3 to 4 times a week, then you are creating a sustainable way of training. You don't have to go to maximums 3-4 times a week. That is too much. So you do no contraction tables, you do other kinds of tables, you do CO2 tables, and maximums you should do only like once a week or even once every 2 weeks. Some people that want to train more than 3 to 4 times. So yes, you can do 5 sessions a week for the diehard fans, but I wouldn't go over this. I wouldn't do 6 or 7 sessions a week. That is just too much because you need at least 2 rest days per week. Also, you have to ask yourself, if you really want to train breath holding 6 or 7 times a week, you have to ask yourself why that is. I mean, can't you spend a week with at least 1 or 2 rest days? I mean, can't you go through a day without holding your breath? So if that is the case, then maybe there is something else going on. Maybe you're getting addicted to the idea that you have to train your breath hold, which is also a problem. So breath holding is a wonderful practice. You learn so much about yourself. You learn to create CO2 tolerance, but it shouldn't become an addiction either. So yeah, think about that. If you cannot spend 1 day without breath holding, then probably something else is going on in your life, and maybe you have to think about this and fix this. So I want you to make this shift from thinking how many times to how relaxed can I be when I hold my breath, independent of the kind of table you're doing, no contraction or CO2 tables. So when you do CO2 tables, obviously the level of discomfort is going to be higher than when you're doing no contractions. So you shouldn't be doing CO2 tables every day either. You should do a mix of everything. If you want assistance in how many times should you do a specific table, or how should you mix different tables into a session, that's exactly what we do inside of the underwater squat. So just join us. If you make the shift from how many times to how relaxed can I be during a breath hold, then you are on the right path. So many people don't do that. Many people just keep on thinking that the training program itself is the solution to their problems, and it is not, because most of the time, I would say 95% of all problems related to breath holding for beginners, they are about subconscious stress and anxiety. You might not be aware of this, you might not know that this is your problem, but yeah, that's why we call it unconscious, right? But as a coach, we can see this, we can read body language. If you shift your focus to relaxation and to becoming aware of how relaxed you actually are during a breath hold, then you are doing it the right way. So yeah, embrace that. And if you want a more structured way of training, then join my underwater squat, skool.com/underwater squat. There you will get access to a worldwide community. We all train our breath hold together, guided tables. We recently added FRC and RV tables, which are empty lung tables. We have breath hold ranges for all levels, from beginners 1 to 2 minutes up until 5 minutes. And if you want to see another video with 10 tips for static apnea, click this video here. Peace in every breath.